Hello and welcome to my channel, The Danish Readaholic. Today will be a short video because I'm gonna talk about some maps. Basically, today's video will be about some of my favorite maps in books and why I love maps in books and just maps in books. I have always had the saying, and my brother will know, he knows that whenever I say this, it just, But for me, whenever I read a book that has a map in it, it's just bound to be a good book. There might be some exceptions to the rule, but to be honest, right now I don't really remember any. So, let me just show you some of the maps that I really like. I've made a big pile here. Some are from books that I have read, some are from books that I haven't read, but I think you will be able to see like a pattern of what I like in maps. I'm gonna do my best to film these like individually, in detail, like close up afterwards so that you can see them while I'm talking about them. I won't go into too much detail, so as I said, this will just be a fun little video where I am showing you the maps, telling you why I like them, and then kind of just moving on. I think I'm gonna start off with the books that I haven't read. First up, we have We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. This is definitely a book that I'm really excited for. I am gonna fit it on my TBR eventually, but honestly, I've had it for so long. I've had it for almost a year, because I remember I got it for Christmas. But this is the map, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The thing that I really like about this one, and with all the maps that you will see, is the amount of detail. What I also like is the kind of frame that the map is in, and all the detail and the palaces that are drawn out. I am especially a big fan of, what is it called, Almes. That was the first one that sort of drew my attention, but also Sultan's Keep. And I feel like there's so much detail in this map, and I just love it. I also love the women on the side. Obviously, I haven't read the story, so I don't know why they're there, but I do have a feeling that when I read the story, it will make sense. Another thing that I love is the fact that even from this, I do have a feeling of the danger that might be in this world. I am really excited to read this, and honestly, the fact that the map is this pretty just makes me even more excited to go there. Next up, we have House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. I got this from my friend Caitlin some time ago, and honestly, this map, it is different from the other one. When I look at this, I do get what is called the Japanese tattoo style vibe, but I'm not sure if that is just me making that assumption, but there's just something about the way that it's drawn that just gives me that feeling. The way that the different names around the places, like the Iberian Isles and the Ardennes, I feel like they're drawn very differently, so that you can definitely see that they're not the same. Even the buildings are very different. The one from Delphos, I get a Greek feeling, which is probably also the point. It looks very European, and I haven't read it, but I do feel like it is supposed to take place in a very old Europe, or at least a land inspired by Europe. So the Dragonspire would be in Italy, and Catalonia would be Spain, and Ardennes would probably be France. It is just so cool to me. The inspiration from what I think that it might be inspired by, from the European countries, I can see it in the way that the castles are drawn. Also because I've actually been to see a couple of castles throughout Europe, in Italy and in Germany, so not in France. I don't remember any in France anyways, but I've also been to England to see a castle there, and the one in the Iberian Islands do look like an English style castle, so I just really like this. But the fact that there is a little Japanese style in it with the creatures surrounding the map, I just love it. I just love it. Next up, we have Three Dark Crowns by Kendara Blake. I feel like I've talked a lot about this book and how much I actually want to read it, but then I also went and looked at the map, and oh my god, you guys. It is so pretty. And now we're getting like back into the details. I do think that it sometimes is kind of hard to see the difference of what is the sea and what is the land, and that is definitely the case with this one. However, I still really like it and like the detail that goes into the land, and I feel like as soon as you've kind of determined the big black line on the outskirts of the country and like the lines, the small lines in the water, when you've determined that that is the boundary, then I feel like it is rather easy to kind of see. Another thing that I like is with every single like land name, there is some kind of background that gives an indicator as to what the land is. For example, Bastion, there is a sword, which probably has something to do with the fact that the city there is called the Warrior City. Then there are also Wolf Spring, and that has a wolf. And then we have Sea-Watch Mountains, we have Roleth, which is the elemental city. All those kind of details. I love that so much. That was that. Next up, we have 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is my Fairy Loot edition, but I'm pretty sure the map is the same no matter the edition. So let me just find it so you can see it. It looks like this. Once again, very heavy on the detail. What I really like about this, because the land itself is actually really, really small, and there is a lot of water. There's a lot of ocean around the land. Well, obviously there's a lot of detail into the land. There's a lot of trees. There's some specific places that are mentioned that are probably going to be relevant to the story. There are 2 palaces. There's a palace and there is a castle, but that's about it. Then we go into the sea, which also gives me a hint that there's probably going to be a lot about some other places. For example, the Dragon King's palace. That sounds exciting already. And then we have this big, I want to call it a sea monster, but it gives me Japanese dragon vibes. This is one of the maps that when I look at it, I'm just like, okay, I need to read this immediately. But a thing that doesn't make sense to me is the little rabbit that sits on the moon. You know what? That is probably going to make sense to me when I read the book. There's also kind of a difference in style because everything is so detailed, and then with the cranes and with the specific rabbit, we only kind of get like a silhouette. There's no detail in them. Another thing I like is kind of like these little crests. So at Sundao, I think there's this, I want to call it like a snake crest. And at Gindara, there is a crane crest. I find that very intriguing. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued by the book. And especially with having seen the map. Then we're gonna move on to The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni, which I, again, have not read. The thing about this map is that it doesn't show you the land, it shows you a prison, which is relevant because our story takes place in a prison. So we have this very, very detailed prison. I'm really, really excited to get to this book. The thing that I also really like about this type of map is that we have this little, I kind of want to call it a scroll or a parchment paper in the left corner that kind of indicates like what the different things is, because every single kind of building, it has a number. And then we have this little list to kind of explain what the different things are. For example, number 20 is an animal farm and number 1 is a lumber yard. So there's a lot of different explanational items to that map, which was the big major map. There is also this smaller map that only takes up 1 page. This, however, shows the entire kingdom. And it also kind of gives us an idea as to where the prison is placed in regards to everything else. It's maps like these that makes me even more excited for the books. The last map that I'm gonna talk about from the books that I have not read is one that I've actually mentioned before, and that is this beauty that we see in Realm Breaker by Victoria Aveyard. First of all, the map in this is placed on the end papers, which I actually really, really like. I don't know why more books don't just do that, because it's, well, there's nothing that has to go on the end papers anyway, so why not put a gigantic, beautiful map there? That makes so much sense. Another thing that I really like is that it's in color. It is not like bright, happy kind of colors. It looks very worn out and it looks like an old map, which I really, really appreciate. Also, it gives me a great feeling of the fact that Corbish is like in the colder regions, same as with Jid or Irla. It is in the more colder northern regions, whereas Benai, now I know that that is kind of in the desert realm, and Galland has forests and everything. So even just small things like that, the colors, they definitely help me to identify what the different types of land are. I really like that. And also the attention to detail with the frame around the map. I really, really enjoy that. Now we're gonna go through the 5 books that I have actually read. First up, we have Blood Air by Amelie Van Sau. I read this this year. I don't really remember when, but I got it from my best friend Caitlin. And this is the map that we have to work with. Again, we have these very detailed land, and I can immediately tell by the style of the countries that this is supposed to be like Russian inspired. I am not even in doubt like one bit because of the uniqueness of the Russian imperial style. I love it so much. But there is a lot of different and intricate details to this, and honestly it's maps like these that just make it so much more fun to read. From time to time I do actually use the maps, so when I'm in doubt as to the level of difficulty in their travels, I sometimes go to the maps to see, okay, they're supposed to go from here to here, and what would that entail? What are they supposed to go through to get there? I love this. I love this so much. It is just great, and I love maps like these. I've said that a million times, but it is just really, really stunning. Next up, we have The Never Tilting World by Rin Chupeco. And this one is actually a little bit special, or at least to me it is, because we are dealing with a split world, which also means that the map here is split. So on one side where we have the sun, as you can see, that is the side with eternal sun, basically. This is where I kind of don't need the colors because I can see in the way that it's drawn with the dotted storm kind of swirls. I get the feeling that that is a sandstorm. So we have the sand, we have the dead trees and the bushfires. Basically that gives me an idea of the fact that this land is just covered in desert and is very, very dry, whereas with the other side, despite the lack in like detail in like the world and the cities, we do have the winds that blow all the time, we have the waves, we have the rain. I'm not in doubt that this land is definitely in the dark all the time. So this is like another great way to like show what type of land we're on. If it's a desert, if it's a forest, whatever it is, but without the use of color. And I also really like that. Another thing that I like is that even in the style of like the name, we can see the tear on the banner, which shows that it is like a broken world. It's the small details, really. It's the small details. Next up, we have Heart of Thorns by Bree Barton, a recent favorite of mine. And the map in this, it is a different style to what I usually go for and for everything else that I've shown. It is less detailed than everything else, but it is still stunning. So what I really, really like about these is the level of effort that has gone into the 4 kingdoms that are shown. So basically we're shown the land, and then each kingdom has this like big crest, but it's the same crest, but still it's a big crest that kind of shows what the glass kingdom is, and then the fire, the river, and the snow kingdom, which is very relevant to the story. Now I have actually read this, so I know that it is relevant to the story. Another thing that I like is the detail that has been put into the city. Like, it's very small, but Caer Cillian has a very, very detailed castle. And also, like, Cillian village is also very detailed. And that kind of just gives away that the land is very, very big, despite looking really, really small on this map. And that's just, you know, a great way to kind of make the world bigger than it looks. Another thing that I like is, again, the detail to the surroundings of the map. So it's not just, you know, the map and then there's nothing around it. I like the detail that I put into the sea. I also like the little compass thing, and definitely the frame around it with these, I want to call it rose bushes. I also really like the banner at the top where the 4 kingdoms are written. It is not my favorite map, but it's definitely a beautiful map. The next one we have is definitely my favorite map like without a shadow of a doubt. Kingdom of the Wicked by Kara Maniscalco. This map is just beyond gorgeous. If I remember correctly, we have not actually been to any of the places that are shown on this map yet. This is basically a map of the 7 circles of hell. And so far, the characters have only been in the real world, but I do think that we're gonna go to hell in the next one. So we have the gates of hell, then we have House Wrath, we have the Lake of Fire, we have the Black River, House Greed, Envy, Pride, Sloth, and Gluttony, and then we have some other elements like a Bloodwood Forest, Flaming Tombs, Storms of Sin, and Violent Winds. This is just so detailed to me, and even like the details around it, like it looks cohesive and it doesn't really look like a map per se. It just looks like a drawing of the different houses. Like the only thing I dislike about this is that it's kind of unclear to see if they're actually this close to each other, so it's not like a one-to-one map, but it's still like a drawing of the different houses of, you know, the 7 circles. And I have been sitting here multiple times looking at which castle I prefer, and I'm gonna have to go with either Envy or Wrath or Pride. Wrath or Pride is definitely the biggest one, but there's something about Envy's castle that I just adore. I love it so much. As I've said a million times, like the attention to detail in these kind of maps are just, you know, what gets me every single time. The last book I'm going to talk about in this maps video is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabbath Hiiya. And this book has 2 maps, so similarly to The Prison Healer. And that is because a big part of the book actually takes place in this academy called the Black Cliff Academy, which looks like this. Again, here we have the thing that I liked from The Prison Healer, where we have a list at the side with the numbers, and the numbers correlate to a building on the map. So we definitely know where everything is. So when our character is describing that, for example, she is going to the amphitheater, I would know, okay, that is here, and that is how close to the different places. That is very interesting to me. And also the level of detail. This looks like more of like a plan sketch or blueprint. So we don't see that much detail on the houses itself, but we do see where everything goes and like what everything is, and I like that a lot. Then we also have this map that shows the rest of the kingdom, which also gives us a good idea as to where things are in relation to each other. So where Blackcliff is in relation to the different cities that are mentioned, or where they're supposed to go, or the prison that, there's this one prison that they're talking about, where that is in regards to everything else. And it is just a great way and a good combination, because when you can see where the prison is or where the academy is in relation to everything else, it just makes it like a cohesive idea of what the world is, if that even makes like the slightest bit of sense. I hope it does. That was it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. It was kind of a different video than what I normally do, very like about stuff that doesn't really matter, but I really love maps in books. It's one of my favorite things to just sit and look at, and these are definitely some of my favorites. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment telling me if you have like a favorite map, or maybe just which one of these ones were your favorite. I would actually like to know both, so if there's anyone that I haven't mentioned, just, you know, let me know. If you like this video, please hit the like icon, and if you want to see more of my bookish content, then please hit subscribe. It will mean the world to me. And also, if you want to be notified every single time that I post, please hit that little bell icon. It would just, you know, mean the world to me. And until I see you next time, bye!